Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today I'm going to discuss the consumption function. Consumption function is an important concept in macroeconomics. It covers how it discusses the relationship between the income of a family or a person and how much of that income converts into consumption of that family or person. So over here on the left-hand side, I have the consumption function. What you can see is the consumption function has the disposable income on the x-axis and consumption expenditure on the y-axis. The disposable income is the difference between your gross take-home gross income and your taxes or any other subtractions that are made during that period. So essentially the disposable income or take-home income is the amount of money a person or a family has to consume. That is the maximum amount that they can consume. The consumption expenditure is the maximum amount a person or the family uses, the consumes. Now, it is not necessarily that the entire disposable income will be converted into consumption expenditure. However, it is also possible that the consumption expenditure is more than disposable income. So let's look at the functional form of the consumption function. C, the total consumption, is given as a sum of C naught, the autonomous consumption, plus CY, the marginal propensity to consume, times of Y minus T. Y minus T is the disposable income. Y minus T is the total income of a person minus the taxes, which gives you the amount the person takes home. Multiply by how much of their income that person is going to use. Some people are going to use 70% of the income. Some people are going to use 30% of their total disposable income. Some people are going to use 100% of their disposable income. So the CY is how much of their income is a person going to consume. And for the aggregate economy, CY is what percentage of the entire aggregate income is an average person going to consume in that economy. C naught. Now, even if a person does not have any income, does not mean that a person will not have consumption. So even when there's no disposable income, y minus t is equal to 0, and this function reduces to c is equal to c naught, there will be some consumption. It is not possible to have zero consumption. Without any consumption, a person will die. Thus, there will always be some autonomous consumption, even if there is no disposable income. Now, how do autonomous consumption comes about? So think about small children. They don't have any disposable income. The family provides them. So it's the family which is providing this autonomous consumption when a person does not have any disposable income. Now think about beggars. So even if a person does not have disposable income, they beg to fulfill the minimum amount of consumption. They beg to have the food, they beg to have water, they beg to have some shelter, they beg to have some medicine. And these type of things are what are part of the person's autonomous consumption. So the autonomous consumption is something without which a person cannot survive, and it is a must to do even when the consumption is zero. So the possible ways to finance autonomous consumption are beg, borrow, steal. Anything, anyway, you get the money, you fulfill your base needs. So C naught is the minimum amount a person needs to survive. The second is MPC. Now, if you look in the graph, C naught is given by this point on the x-axis on the, this point on the y-axis, which is also your y-intercept. The y-intercept is also the point which we call C naught. The autonomous consumption. The y-intercept reflects the area, the point when there is no amount of income and still there is some form of consumption happening at this point. Thus, this point over here is your C naught. This point over here. The intersection of the 2 points is your C naught. The MPC, the marginal propensity to consume, how much extra would you consume when your income increases. So MPC is the change in consumption, is a change in consumption due to the change in your income. Now, in the graph, the MPC is given by the slope of this line. MPC is the slope of the line. If you calculate the slope of this line, the orange line, you will calculate the MPC. Is MPC same for the rich and the poor? The rich tend to save more. They don't need to consume their entire disposable income. Thus, their income converts into other forms of assets, investments, and other sort of expenditures. However, for the poor, the money they get, they need that money for the basic necessities, for education, for housing, for clothes. So a lot of the basic things. And yes, the MPC of the poor is always more than the MPC of the rich. MPC of the poor is always more than the MPC of the rich in a society. This means if you want to trigger consumption, you should give more income to the poor people in the society. As soon as the poor people in the society start getting some form of income, they will start consuming more, and essentially, as a whole, the consumption will increase. If you give extra money to the rich are not going to consume the entire amount. They are going to save a significant amount of that disposable income. On average, not everyone will be the same. Some of the rich people will consume everything, but still, on average, a rich person is going to save more than he consumes. So his MPC will always be less than that of the MPC of the poor. Now I have one question that I can discuss. We have this curve, this graph given of the consumption function, and we need to find the marginal propensity to consume from this figure. To find the marginal propensity to consume, the first thing we have to do is find the slope of the line. So to find the slope of the line, we first need to identify 2 points on the graph. Now you can see the autonomous consumption. When your disposable income is 0, your autonomous consumption is 1. So that's 1 point on the graph. And the second point that we have been pointed out, when the disposable income is $3 trillion and your consumption is $3 trillion. So consumption of 3 trillion when the disposable income is 3 trillion. This leads us to finding the MPC. So the MPC is equal to the slope of the line. And to find the slope of the line, we have to calculate the change in consumption because of change in income. Now, to find the change, the first thing we are going to do is equal to bracket start change in consumption 3 minus 1, which is y2 minus y1, divided by the change in disposable income, or income, y minus y x, so the difference of y's. And what we have is an MPC of 0.67. So what we see is, what is the marginal propensity to consume, MPC? The MPC is 0.67. It is calculated by finding the slope of the line. Remember, MPC, the interpretation of MPC is for every additional dollar earned, the consumer consumes about $0.67.